What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. So, just for fun, I did something, a little quiz in the community section that I think was kind of deep. I like doing stuff like that just for fun. So, I wanna talk about that because I want to explain something like these things tonight. It's just too much to text, to message. So, I did a little quiz, and I said in the quiz, the question was which one of these fights would more than likely not go 6 rounds. So I had Holyfield versus Joe Louis. I had Whyte versus Jerry Quarry. I had Bowe versus Joyce. And I had Norton versus Marciano. Right? Now, there's no wrong or right answer. This is just our opinions. Now, let me tell you why, because I put in order which fights that I think would have more than likely had a better chance of not going 6 rounds. We don't know this for sure, but we've seen a lot of great fighters have fights and it ended way earlier than we thought it would, if at all, because there's certain fights you thought might have went the distance. Like Hagler Hearns. I mean, that fight is regarded as one of the greatest fights ever. And that was an action-packed 9 minutes, and Hearns went to sleep in 3 rounds. But it was 3 rounds of war. So we've seen Thomas Hearns knock out Roberto Duran in 2 rounds. So you never know. Now, let me give you what I'm saying and why. Now, there's no, like I said, there's no guarantee, but this is what I feel and why. Now, I'm not surprised that most people, as of right now, even have Joe Joyce versus Bowe as the fight that they feel like is least likely to go past 6, right? Now, let me start with Holyfield versus Joe Louis. Now, this is what I think. Now, because of Joe Louis' story, not just what he did in the ring, but his story alone, and from his fights. Now, a lot of people, they are more persuaded to pick Joe Louis as a favorite because of what he did in the sport so long ago, and he was a legend before Holyfield was great. So, they would pick Joe Louis to beat Holyfield. And that's all fine. Now, personally, I think Holyfield's style was just far more advanced than Lewis's. Louis was kind of slow, feet and hands. He walked in a straight line. He was only, most of the time 190, 95 pounds. So even by the time he got to that 200-pound mark, Holyfield is used to fighting giants. So this will be a time where he doesn't have an opponent with a size advantage in height or body weight. And Holyfield could fight on the inside or the back foot. Now, I don't think Joe Louis hits so hard Holyfield can't take his punch. And I think because of Holyfield's quick hands, his combination punch and everything, I think he boxed circles around Joe Louis. And I believe that fight could have went past 6 rounds, but I also feel like it might have been stopped as well. Now, we've seen Holyfield fight Bobby Ches and try to kill him and couldn't get him out of there. It's harder sometimes to knock a guy out when they're not trying to really fight back. They're just trying to survive. And also, when you're looking for the knockout, sometimes you don't get it. That's why they tell you, let the knockout come. Don't, just touch him. Don't put everything on every shot. Because really, even though you're landing shots, a lot of times they're telegraphed. So the fighter's turning his head enough to where they're not getting the full blunt. But anyway, so we saw that, but we also saw him stop Tyson and drop Tyson when he didn't drop Ches at all. Okay? Now, it's very possible because of his style that he can be loading up on Louis and, Louis is not able to throw back like he want. That maybe the fight gets stopped. It's possible. I don't really think either one of those guys knocked the other out. I think Holyfield had a better chin than Joe Louis, though. And basically, they're all human. So I'm not caught up into all of this superhuman Joe Louis moved a 500-pound barrel of hay with a 6-inch punch, and okay, because we've seen him get beat. you know, and we've seen him beat guys. Great fighter, take nothing away from him, from neither one of them. But I give Holyfield the edge, in my opinion, in that fight, that it's possible Holyfield can beat him. He possibly can beat Holyfield. But I would go with Holyfield. Better fighter all around, heart of a fucking lion, and used to fighting way bigger guys, you know. And so I go with Holyfield by TKO. Now, Dillian Whyte versus Jerry Quarry. Both of these guys, Quarry isn't backing up, he's coming forward. Now, Dillian Whyte is a bigger, heavier guy, can punch. Quarry can punch. Dillian Whyte style makes fights harder for himself because where he can maybe outbox, use those long ass arms and box and set you up and, you know, strategically beat you. He makes fights harder for himself. He doesn't use the best judgment in his fights because he's been cracked and hurt a lot of times, even when he's won the fights where, you know, it's all this whole I want to get in there and slug. Now, he could possibly cut Jerry Quarry, bloody him up, fight gets stopped on that, TKO. But it's also possible that even if he's winning the fight, that Jerry Quarry can catch him slipping, and Dillian Whyte is known to be careless and knock, you know, Dillian Whyte out just like Povetkin did, you know, who he was outboxing. So it's very possible. And personally, between the two of them, I would favor Quarry to catch him sleeping and get him out of there. You know, we've seen Quarry fight Joe Frazier. We've seen a lot. You know, now, does Dillian Whyte hit hard enough to hurt him and knock him out? Of course. And he's a big dude. He's much bigger than Joe Frazier. So, yeah. So, I can look at it more than one way, but I get that feeling, I lean towards Quarry in that one. I lean towards Quarry in that one by KO. Or I can also say Dillian by stoppage because he cuts him, bloodies him up, and the ref stops it. Okay. So I can say either way, but I lean towards Quarry in that one. Now, Ken Norton versus Joe Louis. Or did I do Holyfield versus Joe Louis? Who did I do Ken Norton with? Ken Norton I did with... Give me a second. Okay. My bad, y'all. I did Ken Norton versus Joe Louis. I did Holyfield. I did Holyfield versus Joe Louis, and I did Ken Norton versus Marciano. Yeah, I already talked about them. That's right. Yeah, I did Holyfield versus Joe Louis already. Ken Norton versus Marciano. Same thing. Marciano is going to come forward. That's all he knows. Norton comes forward. The only time you really saw him backing up was against, you know, Foreman, who was even much bigger and stronger than he was. So, I think between the two of them, that can go either way. And here's why I say that. Now, technically, all around, I think Norton was sharper than Marciano was. Now, Marciano's a hard puncher, but Marciano was only 180, 185 pounds. Norton was at least 212. Okay, and he's a little bigger, a little taller, and they both can punch. I think between Norton and Marciano, it's more of who can avoid just getting hit with unnecessary big bombs, and basically who can absorb it better. I think that fight goes either way, because I think either one of them both have the ability to hurt the other, but let's be honest, with that extra weight for Norton, it would be a heavyweight versus a cruiserweight. Heavyweights were smaller back in that era, and so if I had to lean towards someone, it would be Norton. It would be Norton if I had to lean towards someone. At the same time, I just say overall, I think that goes either way. I would go lean towards Norton or either way. And you got to understand, again, we're talking about a guy who is really a heavyweight versus a guy who at the time was considered a heavyweight, but only 180, 85 pounds, wasn't even 190. So I would favor Norton for that reason. So my overall pick, either way. Now, Riddick Bowe versus Joe Joyce. I think Bowe was the better boxer overall. Yeah, Bowe had a hell of a jab, and popping that jab and working off that jab was a masterpiece. Now, and he could fight on the inside, and he was a big dude. Now, overall, Bowe's the better fighter, in my opinion, technically. But at the same time, I've seen Bowe fight guys that we thought he was going to get out of there early. And Riddick Bowe did, even when he did get those guys out, there's certain guys it took more than 6 rounds for him to get out of there. We thought he was get rid of way earlier. Also, Riddick Bowe's prime, and this is where I like to match the guys up, is at their prime. And his prime didn't last long. Riddick Bowe was done by the time he was 28. Now remember, he fought Andrew Galata twice, back to back, and he was only 28 years old. Riddick Bowe was already done, and I believe Riddick Bowe accumulated so much punishment that his career ended early, because his prime ended early because he just took too much punishment. I know when you look at Bowe and we remember how sharp he was, and I feel like, because his prime was so short, is why people don't really talk about Bowe as much as, we who understand his skills probably feel like they should. But one thing about Bowe, you gotta understand too, Holyfield is a great fighter. Holyfield was only 206 pounds, and he gave Riddick Bowe hell, and he even dropped Riddick Bowe. Remember the third fight they had? Riddick Bowe pretty much was done. Holyfield dropped him, but Holyfield said he had the flu in that fight. He punched himself out, and Bowe was hurt badly, and Holyfield dropped him in one shot. He was done. If Holyfield was able to just launch shots at him, he's done. He's done, and he either gets knocked down again, or knocked out, or Holyfield start raining on him and the ref stops it, because he had nothing left, and Holyfield couldn't do anything. And then Bowe wound up getting him out of there because of, and mind you that, Holyfield is much older than Bowe. Now, Joe Joyce is a big, strong dude who can take a hell of a punch, and his style, his stamina, his ability to absorb a hard shot, I don't think Bowe beats him as easy as people think. So even though if it goes the distance, I have Bowe winning by unanimous decision, I don't think he wins without taking punishment and knowing that, I was in a real fight. So that fight, out of all of them, I give that fight more of a chance of going the distance versus that fight not going past 6 rounds. Joe Joyce was stopped in the amateurs. He was knocked out in the amateurs. He was beat by AJ. He was beaten by Whyte. And somebody else, I can't remember who it was at the time right now, but, but as a pro, he's been a whole different guy. And he has the kind of style that if you imagine him fighting certain fighters, you'll go, nah, they'll outbox that guy. But like I said, his ability to absorb punishment and keep coming forward and make you fight more than you want to, that means Bowe's going to open up more as well, and he's not going to give Bowe the chance to use that jab. The same way Holyfield, when he was pressuring Bowe, he made Bowe fight more than he wanted. But at the same time, Holyfield's a little guy compared to Bowe. And if he could give Bowe that kind of, hell that he gave him, did you really think that Joe Joyce, as big and as strong as he is, that it's really going to be that easy to outbox him? And also, let's remember, Riddick Bowe also had that type of temper of, okay, you crack me, now I'm going to crack you back. And I do believe Joe Joyce takes a shot way better than Riddick Bowe does. So this is where, when I'm making these matchups, that's where I'm looking at. Now, again, there's no wrong or right answer. That's just what I feel. So I'm always interested to, see how other people see these fights. So this is why I'm breaking down what I feel and why I feel. But I think they're all intriguing matchups, and you always got to keep in mind as well. And I also do this because this is why I'm saying you never know what can happen. Nobody pictured Hagler knocking Hearns out in 3 rounds. Nobody pictured Hearns knocking out, Duran in 2 rounds. Nobody thought Ali had a chance in hell of beating George Foreman because of what he did to Joe Frazier and Ken Norton. Nobody thought Ernie Shavers would knock Ken Norton out in 1 round. You see what I mean? So this is things I look at. And also, him being knocked out by Shavers is also one of the hardest punches pound for pound in the history of boxing. And also understand too, Shavers again was another guy well over 200 pounds. So that's the advantage I give him over Marciano, is his size. You never know. But that's where I feel like, his punches to Norton wouldn't have been the same as to other 180, 85 pound fighters. Now you in there with a guy 212, 215, it's a little different, and it's not like Norton couldn't take a punch, but George Foreman, that was a beast. He was a beast. And I do not believe for 1 second that Marciano hits as hard as George Foreman did. So you got to understand, through time, things change. People get bigger, stronger, different methods of training, and all of this kind of stuff. So overall, that's my take on it. That's my picks, and I'm always interested to know, like, what other people think in these scenarios, because it's all just the way we imagine something happening. So I would never tell you this is exactly what would happen. No, this is just the way I see the possibilities of what could happen. I don't know for sure what would have happened, but those scenarios is what I see more likely than less. And let's all remember something too. A lot of people thought Daniel Dubois was going to knock out Joe Joyce, and I was one of them, saying the way he fights and Daniel Dubois' explosiveness, his power, and just his relentlessness, and Joe Joyce is so easy to hit. Man, now I never said Daniel Dubois can't win. I mean, Joe Joyce couldn't win, but I said I'm favoring Dubois in this one, and Dubois did everything I said he was going to do. But guess what? Joe Joyce is like, y'all don't know something about the juggernaut. My chin is made of granite, bro. I'm not going nowhere. And he absorbed those blows, worked off that jab, and like, damn. I was like the first one to give him his props, because those clean shots, he was taking bombs. And you guys underestimate how hard Daniel Dubois hit. That guy can punch. So this is what I'm saying. It's not easy, and he's just as big as Bowe. He's a big boy just like Bowe. So it's like, it's not as easy as people think. And yeah, he works off of that jab. But again, we've seen Riddick Bowe allow people to bring that pressure where he's abandons the boxing and go right into brawling. And again, I do not, looking at this, look, Holyfield, I like him more than every fighter I just named. It's not about who I like more, okay? But what I'm saying, because it doesn't make, I can like one fighter more than another fighter, but think he probably can't beat that guy. So I'd be honest and say that. But what I'm saying, like I've said already, Holyfield was only 206 pounds, man. And the fact is, not only did he drop Bowe, but he had Bowe hurt. And he was able to outbox Bowe in the rematch. And, people, well, if the guy in the parachute didn't go, we don't know what would have happened. But bottom line is, other than the third fight, he wasn't able to get rid of Holyfield. And, Holyfield made it back to his feet and the ref stopped it. But before that, Holyfield had him gone. Bowe was done. So, Joe Joyce is a guy. His style looks easy from the outside looking in, but when you in here with him, he shows these guys, nah, I'm here. I'm real. And this is why guys are going to avoid him right now. So I'm not even shocked by that, but that's that people thought that picked that fight as the one more likely to not go past 6. I'm like, nah, I honestly think that fight goes the distance. If it goes 12 rounds, I say Bowe by unanimous decision. If it is a stoppage, it could be either way. And I believe that with Bowe, it more than likely probably would have been, I mean, it could have been a knockout, but I would go more with the ref probably stopping it, not the fight end with Bowe laying face down or on his back. I think that, because Joyce can hurt him. He definitely got the power to hurt him and the size to hurt him. But that type of pressure with that type of size, and he comes forward, Joyce does not give you a chance to think. That's his style. Riddick Bowe is a boxer, but he has the temperament of a brawler. So when he starts to mix it up, that's when he gets hit more. So the jab we talking about has to be done off of discipline. You understand? So this is where I see that fight out of all of them going the distance. That's the only fight that I say I think has that fight has the ability to go the distance, in my opinion. Holyfield and Lewis does have the ability to go the distance. Those are the only two, in my opinion. I think between Norton and Marciano, somebody's going night-night. I think Quarry and Whyte, somebody's going night-night. I think Lewis and Holyfield, I'm just going to go, like I said, TKO stoppage for Holyfield. I think Bowe and Joyce goes 12 rounds. I think that goes 12 rounds. I mean, and let's not forget, even though the fight was stopped against Parker, they stopped in the 11th, right? So think about it. Yeah, they stopped in the 11th. And Joe and actually most people had Parker winning because they felt like he was the better boxer, had the better skills overall. And for the people that said, yeah, but Parker's not the same, no. We've been saying Parker never really got better from when we saw him at his peak at that time. But nobody was saying that before the fight. It was only afterwards. So you got to understand too, different fighters can make you look different, because what works usually with other fighters is not working with that fighter. And when you can punch the way Parker can, and a guy is just walking through you, not only that, he's better defensively this time than what you normally see. He made Parker, in my opinion, really feel, damn, I gotta hit this guy and get him out of here. The boxing skills that people were saying he had to use, that he was going to beat Joe Joyce with, you didn't see that. You saw him trying to brawl. And a lot of times, like Errol Spence, what did he say about Sean Porter? Now, he told Terrence Crawford, why not fight Sean, take the easy route and fight Porter? But what did he say at the press conference? Boxing is boring to him. He liked to go for the knockouts. But even if he wanted to box Sean Porter's style makes you brawl. So it goes to show you there's a difference. And that's why when these guys are saying, one guy, I don't think he can take this or that. Well, when you look at consistency, a guy like Joe Joyce has been beating people the same exact way, juggernaut style. But he showed more poise, more skill in that last fight with Joseph Parker than he did in the others. The other fight, he was just getting hit with everything. He just won't go down. So we can't just assume that Riddick Bowe would have automatically knocked him out. And can we really say that Bowe hits harder than Daniel Dubois? Can we really say he hits harder than Joseph Parker? And if so, then why couldn't he knock out a guy 206 pounds? So Holyfield always could take a punch. Holyfield always had strong recuperative powers, and he always, he knows if he has to brawl, he will. If he has to box, he will. So Holyfield is definitely a great boxer, but let's understand, at 6 foot, what is Joe Joyce? 6'5", 6'6", 250? Holyfield 6'2.5", 206. Riddick Bowe is what, 6'5", 240, 235, 240? So just think. But those matchups that, what if we could get those games? Those fights, right? What if we could get those fights? So I just like doing things like that. Hey, salute y'all for participating. Talk to me in the comment section. What y'all think about those matchups and who y'all think would have took it and how. And remember, the question was, which one of these fights are least likely to not go 6 rounds? Okay, to not go 6 rounds. Joe Joyce versus Riddick Bowe, Holyfield versus Joe Louis, Ken Norton versus Rocky Marciano, Dillian Whyte versus Jerry Quarry. Let me know what y'all think. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. I will catch y'all on the next video.